What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York. We are at the final day at Aftershock 2022, and starting the day off, we return with Amigo the Devil.
Hello!
It's so great to talk with you, man. I feel like it's a tradition. I think every DWP fest, we're always talking to each other.
And we always have a good time.
Yep, and you're always the featured thumbnail in the playlist, too. They're always divided, and they look fairly similar. So you're one of the first bands I think of at a DWP festival.
Thank you.
Yep. So the last time I spoke to you, we were still talking about Everything Is Fine, but your latest album is Born Against. Was that intended to be a continuation of Everything Is Fine, or was that meant to be a new beginning for you in your adventure?
I think just by the nature of... So I write very much... I don't want to say introspectively, because I do add a lot of elements of fantasy, like where I pretend to be in other situations. But I definitely write from a perspective that is internal. So I think inherently everything will always somewhat be a continuation. But it wasn't like I sat down and I was like, let's do part 2.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of things dragged in from the last recordings, and I kind of feel like it'll always be that way.
Well, you mentioned that you have like an internal source, but is observation, or is there ever an external source of inspiration too? Life does have its ways of throwing crazy things at you.
I think so regardless where the inspiration comes from, for example, a song like, now that it's popular on the show, like Dahmer Does Hollywood, I'm not Jeffrey Dahmer. I have no real skin in that song. But when I was writing it, I was trying to put myself in that perspective. So it is still internal, whether I'm pretending to be somebody else or not, right? It just isn't always my personal internal nature. So it kind of remains, whether it's external or... This is so convoluted, I'm sorry, but whether I'm getting an inspiration from an outside source, I'm still going to take it and ask myself how I would feel in that situation.
Well, I mean, that's not odd at all. Henry Matisse, the painter, said every painting is a self-portrait.
Yes.
So every song of yours is a self-portrait, regardless of what you're singing about.
And sometimes it's just from somebody else's perspective of how I would react to their situation.
Do you need to put yourself in a certain atmosphere, in a certain situation, in order to cultivate ideas, or does inspiration just strike out of the blue when you least expect it?
Not like a physical situation, but I tend to clear my mind a lot. I tend to do a lot of just word vomit. Essentially, I start... Like if I sit down with the purpose of writing, right? I clear my mind and I forget everything, and I don't have a purpose, I don't have an idea, I don't have a goal, and I straight up just start verbal vomit. And then eventually something comes up and I'm like, that's really cool. Could be cool. And then I'll start developing from there and kind of diving in to see how I feel about it. But it's more of a purge than a process.
Could the concept or the meaning of a song or an album, do you feel like maybe, because I've always said that art is life, you bring it into the world and it has its effect on people. Do you think, do you want the concept or the meaning of your music to maybe evolve as you evolve over time, or do you prefer if every song or every album that you create is a snapshot of who you are at that particular moment?
I would love to be removed from it entirely. I don't believe that I am part of the art at all. I saw this thing, like a little seminar thing once, and she was a writer. She was talking about how she doesn't believe that she's anything more than just a vessel, essentially. Not a holy vessel, not an important vessel, just literally a means to an end. Where that's where the clearing my mind thing came into play, is if you allow yourself to exist on just a blank slate, the universe, the world, whatever it is going to throw shit at you no matter what.
100%.
And you get to decide what sticks and what doesn't. And I feel like that's the only real control you have when you're writing a song, is that you're just deciding what sticks and what you throw away.
Does it almost feel like every song is playing with fire, in a way?
Some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah. And on top of that, you want to remove yourself completely from it, which, you're the artist. It's kind of like, in a way, difficult. Obviously songwriting is cathartic and it is inspirational, but could it also make it rather deteriorating too.
Oh, yeah. Everything's fine. Going back to that was an exhausting record to write. That destroyed me. Not because it emotionally drained me, but because it was so many different ideas and concepts and emotions that I hadn't really processed before. And it was too many of them at once to process. So by the end of that cycle, I was like, I don't even know who I am.
Yeah, and
Yeah, everything I thought is wrong.
I feel like, I mean, isn't that always like 'cause when you work on something for a long period of time too? It's obviously harder to capture that moment that initially sparked it. Does that kind of throw you off when you're not feeling the same way when you finish an album as you do when you start it?
No, I'm not really. I don't hold on to a lot of emotion from the past. Like, I love memories, I love stories, I love moments in my past, but I don't really care much for the emotion of the past. I feel like holding on to the emotional aspect of the past rather than just factual moments is keeping yourself there for longer than you need to be.
100%.
Because you find yourself trying to recreate those moments because you remember that they felt good. And when you can't recreate those, we start to punish ourselves and we start to realize, oh, I'm broken now, or I'm not who I used to be. And that's how it's supposed to be. I don't think you're ever supposed to be who you used to be.
100%. The comfort is the worst thing for an artist.
Oh, yeah.
And I have two more questions for you. You've expressed yourself through multiple forms of instrumentation, whether it will be through vocals or the guitar, banjo. You experiment with so many different forms of instrumentation. Depending on the instrument, is that a different form of expression for you? Is that expressing a different side of you in the instrumentation?
I don't think that the emotion is in the instrument. I think the instrument is a tool. So it's kind of a by any means necessary. So if there's something that needs to be expressed in a song, it's not so much that the guitar or the theremin or the banjo holds the emotion. It's more of, all right, what tool is going to build this emotion better? Mm-hmm. What is the best tool for the job?
100%.
And sometimes that takes learning a new instrument.
I can only imagine what touring's gonna be like. Like bring out the banjo. Okay, bring out the triangle. Bring out the tuba.
Well, now that we have the full band, it's been way more involved and intricate, and everything takes so much longer.
Yeah.
You know, setup and sound check and gear and blah blah blah.
But it maybe brings more context to the Amigo, the Devil experience, right?
For me personally, I don't see myself playing. So I love playing solo. I love the amount of freedom that I get to, interact with the audience and have a good time together. With the band, the songs are being played how I feel them, how I see them, how I intended them. And that to me is so rewarding. It might be selfish, but it's how I genuinely get the maximum joy from playing.
Being an artist is sometimes the most selfish endeavor that there is, because you have to literally use whatever means necessary to cultivate your idea. And you have to go against what you do and against the principles of others. Yep. And the final question I wanted to ask you is I've seen you play at a variety of different atmospheres. I saw you on the main stage at Sonic Temple Fest and Louder Than Life and here, but I've also seen you at small intimate venues like Irving Plaza or the Bowery Ballroom. Yeah. Does that vibe for you, or that emotion or that experience also change depending on the atmosphere that you're playing in as well?
I think it's not that it changes, it adapts in I know those are very similar, but I feel like adaptation is the same end goal via different means. Changing is basically altering the end goal. Mm-hmm. So the end goal for shows is the same thing, is for me and whoever is playing us, essentially, to give literally everything we got in the most honest form possible, not this built up mechanical choreographed thing. For me, I want the most honest version of what we're doing, and to connect at the maximum potential to become one unit in the room.
And you
That's my
succeed
goal.
in all those regards. Like,
I appreciate
I'll never
that.
forget, the Sonic Temple show was my first experience, and I've never forgot when you said, do a circle pit, but do it all really sad and slow. That was like this, and people listen, the fact that you can make people do that at a bright and sunny festival, you make people laugh at Doom, and it's amazing.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and
Likewise.
continuing the tradition of ending every festival. I've not only have I interviewed you at every festival, it's always on the final day too.
That's funny. That's a coincidence.
Yeah, that's I think it's a sign of something. But is there just anything else that you would like to plug with the release of Born Against, and anything else we could be expecting from Amigo the Devil fairly soon?
I mean, no plug, but we're gonna keep touring, keep making records, and we hope to see you out there at some point and just join the family. It's fun.
It most certainly is. Everybody, we are here with Amigo the Devil, Aftershock 2022. We will see you next time.